Hello everyone and welcome to the LSI F1.5 EU Championship. We're today for the Spanish Grand Prix, round 7 out of 12. And we've got Verf as a higher tier driver starting another lap to just get some running done in the session. You could see as they exited the final corner, they just quickly went over track limits just to validate the lap, and now they will push to the maximum to show us what they can do. They had a pretty tough time yesterday, didn't really quite find the pace that they wanted to and what they've seen so far this season. Oh, and it's all over the exit, a bit twitchy, and they're going to have to back off on this lap. They rejoin the circuit, and so they're going to have to go again. They're going to have minimal time to go back into the pit lane and come back out, so they might just want to stay at the back. Jericho Willis will be looking to probably de-skew themselves at the end of this session so that they don't start this race further up than they need to, and they can start directly at the back, but we'll see how that goes. Wait 1 minute, begins their lap. The next car to begin after Verf has gone into the pit lane. It's actually Terrence out on track going around to complete a lap, so we'll see what they can do. Sulkin DSQs to start at the back, and Jericho Willis will be on their way to do the same thing. And wait 1 minute, up through the first sector, what's it going to be as they go over the first line? And it's just under a tenth up on their previous best. They do need to find 4 tenths to try and catch up to Bernst up in P2. Edvir P1 at the moment, a 12.480 with no Frantic, the championship leader, to compete, and they'll take some nice points home as long as they can get to the end of this Grand Prix. And there's Terrence to P3, pushing down wait 1 minute. The Sauber through the following corners, and the final one is upon them, using the ERS to the line. What's it going to be for the Sauber driver? It's going to be an improvement by 4 tenths to P2 at 12.758, and that is a massive improvement. The championship contender begins their final lap of the session. Bernison is currently sat in P3 at 12.822 is their lap time. Terrence directly in front of their teammate. What's Terrence looking like? Oh, they go up the hill, and I think they're going to look at trying to give their teammate a tow instead. Nope, they're not. They've backed off of their lap though, that's for sure. Into the final sector, hopefully they don't get in the way of each other. It's pretty much dead on the lap time. Oh no! For Bern, and that's going to be lap over. They would have had a chance in the final sector of catching up to the Sauber, but it's going to be P3 or lower. Bonsai in P5, they'll be up next, and then we'll head over to Edvir to see what they're doing. But that was a yellow sector right there, just for a short moment. Bonsai across the line, P5 for now, and they stay P5 with a decent improvement. They actually go to 4th place in the end, bumping themselves in front of Terrence. Edvir though has the final few corners to go. Currently on top, is looking to solidify their position as they go into the pit lane. They don't need to worry, and that is the lap done. Edvir on pole position for the Spanish Grand Prix. Pretty nice way to set this one up. We've got Edvir on pole, and They'll be looking to try and take a victory and a massive chunk out of Frantic's championship lead. Edvir on pole position, it's Way 1 minute in P2 and Bernison in P3. The race director is on your screen now just in case, and we'll be back for the race. We'll see you in a bit. Ready, hold, go! Who's going to get it into turn one? The McLaren on front. It's going to be the Sauber on the inside line. Who will get there into the first corner, tucking into the slipstream? Will they go back to the right-hand side? No, they slot in uniformly. It's though the Mercedes on the inside now trying to have a go at the Red Bull. What's going to happen? Someone lost in front wing in the background there. I don't know who it was. We're on board with the Mercedes. Have we got damage from the Red Bull behind? I think I saw. No, it's not. It's actually the Aston Martin of Sulkin who's missing something on the front wing of their car, which is going to compromise the other drivers. Oh, and it's Jericho Willis who brakes incredibly late and gets in front of Sulkin. The higher tier drivers fighting out pretty hard right now. It's Edvir breaking away. 8/10 at the moment. Way 1 minute has got a few opportunities to hold on to DRS range, but it might be a little bit too late. We've got a whole sector to get through and only a 10th. There it is. DRS range is on the limit. What's it going to be? As we also have side by side in the background, Verf getting ahead of Sulkin. Berners in P3, Bonsai in P4 and Terrence. It all stays pretty much as it was. It's just the higher tier drivers that have switched. It's Sulkin into the pit lane. What can we get from the rest of the field? No overtaking for now. It's going to be a tough one. It's been a brilliant first lap though for Edvir, who's done exactly what they needed to. And you can see from the cars behind, they're not exactly far away, so a single mistake would be very easily punished. Like that. But it's not impossible for them to maintain this gap and stay where they need to be. That's the first retirement on the opening lap as Sulkin has that damage on the front wing and did not wish to continue further into this race. Edveer 1.2 seconds ahead now. Bernst is currently 8 tenths away. They do get DRS to catch back up to the Sauber car. Wait 1 minute having a much better race compared to what they had before, which I think they had connection issues because they did not compete in the race. They were in AI for the entire time. Now they are competing up with the other drivers, doing what they can. Bonsai in P4, not quite within DRS range, and Terence is going to be attacking the Mercedes car, I'm very sure. There it is, the move is done. It's also going to be Jericho Willis trying to have a go as well. Will Verth get there as well? No, they will not. They will just have to sit behind and wait for the Mercedes. Obviously a high tier driver, so they don't need to worry too much. But oh, a big mistake in turn 3, and that is going to be the Mercedes out of the wall, but still around. Down to P7 they go, net P4 for the current tier drivers. Edveer still leads. DRS range currently available for the Sauber car. And as the race progresses, Edveer now under threat from the Sauber car a little bit more. Is Bernst out of DRS range by a decent amount now. Terence gets overtaken by Jericho Willis with pressure from Verth. We've got another moment from Bonsai, unfortunately, as the front of the field all pretty close together, just not quite within DRS range of each other. But Jericho Willis is going to be wanting to try and get ahead sooner rather than later. I'm sure the Sauber will catch up. Wait 1 minute to Edveer. ERS being used. Jericho Willis will take that position quite nicely, with Terence slotting in behind and not worrying too much about that position. They've got a lot of battery in that car, but they know, after especially the last race, that they don't need to catch up to Jericho Willis, as they are a different tier. Not anymore. They used to be, but they won the championship, and now they're up in the top level of racing with LSI. Verth up next to try and have a go. We see Jericho Willis get a big slingshot and catch up now to weigh 1 minute, so all of a sudden the train is all brought together once again. Is actually, though, Terence, who has dropped after dropping behind Verth, now 1.1 seconds away from the Sauber car, so not able to hold on to the train. Sorry, and I was referring to Bernst as Terence for a few moments there, but now that is completely different, because I realised my mistake. Ooh, and wait 1 minute, down the order. Oh, I do not believe it. The final corner strikes. And the Sauber goes from competing for glory now down to P6. They have DRS for a moment. They have an opportunity to catch up to Terence, who doesn't have any DRS. But that's not going to make their day any better. What a shame there for Wait 1 minute, who had a brilliant start compared to previous back in Monza. Well, just maybe they'll have another opportunity in this race. You never know when it comes to league racing. So close to the back of the Red Bull car, but not in a position to make a safe overtake. They really want to, you can see it. The F1 race winners this season doing what they can. DRS available, what's it going to be? Are we going to see the move? It's going to be a pretty straightforward one. And Verf now into P3, trying to hunt down Jericho Willis once more. Edvir stays ahead for now. It's way 1 minute into the pit lane, and it's Bonzo who gets promoted in extra position. I think way 1 minute. Doesn't have any damage. They're on a soft tyre. Okay, so that would explain the spin. Their tyres died, and unfortunately, that's the way it's going to go. We've also got a soft tyre from Bernst as well, so they're going to have a big struggle, and that's why Terence is currently catching up at quite a drastic rate to their teammate. Not normal to see a soft tyre strategy, although we did see that from Tom yesterday. Attempted it, but it didn't quite work out. So it is the pit stop for the Red Bull. It's DRS for Terence, and the slipstream slingshot helps them out nicely. Are we going to see Jericho Willis dive to the inside? Well, that would be a little bit of a risk that you don't want to take at this stage, wouldn't it? With all the strategies being quite mixed up. Anybody could do anything at this stage, and the race is going to go all the way down to the wire. This is the battle that we've got, though. We've got two higher tier drivers that want to sort each other out position-wise. But they also need to try and get ahead of Edvir. And to do that safely, well, no overtake is safe, really, is it? There's a lot of risk involved. Edvir driving a strong race at the moment. I'm sure they're going to want to try and take the victory for the overall tier anyway. But for the current EU drivers, they would be winning regardless of if they get overtaken by these two or not. This time Jericho Willis a lot closer, and I think the move's going to be done. Edvir can't do anything about it this time. And Jericho Willis, the American, overtakes the car that they raced in yesterday as they give it over to the EU Championship tier. And allow the others to race. It's Verf who wants to try and find a way through, but you can see Jericho Willis breaking a little bit of a gap. The ERS was being safe for a moment, and now you can see, look at this, the blast. No, they're not going to use the battery to try and charge through on Edvir until a little bit later on, and it's too late to do anything now, so they're going to have to hope that they can find a way through on the start-finish straight into turn 1, and with that little bit of a gap that's breaking away for Jericho Willis, it might just be enough. In the dirty air, Verf is right now 4/10 away now, is Edvir and Jericho Willis. Jericho Willis is pushing to try and bring that gap as wide as possible. That's exactly what they're trying to do, that's what they need to do to prevent the slingshot from taking everything back. And you can see how much speed that this man has, and they'll gain 1-ish, 2-ish tenths back. But it's whether they'll be able to re-find that once more. They had a good old battle yesterday. It's pretty difficult to overtake around here at the Spanish Grand Prix circuit in Catalonia. but to catch up is a different thing. DRS games will be a factor if we get these two racing each other as expected. Edvir holds on to the back of the Sauber for now. Terence P4 on a standard strategy, taking a win back in Australia. They are in contention for the championship lead, and in fact they're actually ahead of Edvir in the championship. 64 points to 61 for Edvir, 81 for Frantic. If Edvir and Terence get a 1-2 finish, then that means that Edvir and Frantic will be level on points with 81 points, and it will be Terence in P2, but by 1 point. If Terence wins today, then they will be the championship leader. Anything can happen with just a small little moment in the race. Currently, everyone out of DRS range at the moment. The top three splitting up slowly, as it's Verf catching up to Jericho Willis and breaking away from Edvir. Terence 1.8 seconds, doing what they can. They can see the McLaren directly in front of them and no one else. We realised that the tyres were a problem yesterday, and that's something that Terence is usually pretty good at managing. So will this be their circuit? Will they be able to find the pace later on? Well, currently they're managing the pace nicely relative to Edvir, but there's a long old distance into this one. We're definitely not done yet. Bonsai and P5, after having their issues, haven't made a pit stop, started on a hard tyre. Oh! And another issue, unfortunately, and somehow keeping it out of the wall with a double, effectively, spin right there as they go up the hill. Those tyres are absolutely cooked. Vance goes through after making their pit stop already, and they now try and make some progress. They're currently on 3-lap-old mediums, going for that aggressive 2-stop strategy. How will this one play out? Will they play, or will they fight their teammate, or will they allow Terence to go free? Because currently Terence is hunting down the EU race leader for the EU Championship. Verf and Jericho Willis are within DRS range of each other, but this is the battle that matters the most today. And they've got 2 Red Bulls versus 1 McLaren. I do wonder how that's going to play out. Ken Lamgain did not make it today, the other driver from Hong Kong. DRS is surely almost at Terence's fingertips right now. It just seems to be that this man is finding the pace later on into the stint, which from what we saw yesterday was very beneficial to the likes of Briscoe to take that victory. And it looks like it could be beneficial today as well, even before we get to the second stint onto that hard tyre. DRS available, and Terence is going to be gaining massively. Edvir has no escape now, and the Hunter is catching up, and well, they want to be the hunted. They want to be ahead of the McLaren driver sooner rather than later. That would put Edvir into dirty air, and that's going to make life very difficult for the Dutchman. This is going to be one hell of a race as it builds up slowly. But we do have our top 2 currently breaking away slowly but surely. And they're going to be following each other all the way to the end. It's going to be an exhausting race. It's going to be a classic between Jericho Willis and Verf, though. That's for sure. Like the old times. We see Edvir and Terence in P3 and 4. Should have really put Jericho Willis in a Williams car, and that would have definitely been a bit nostalgic. There it is, though, the pit stops. For Verf, Verf goes in, Edvir goes in, and it's Terence who stays out as they know that they can extend their tyres a little bit further, not allowing the Red Bull driver to overtake. And Verf is going for that undercut. Jericho Willis has to react. We saw yesterday that the undercut isn't that bad. Sorry, it's not that effective. So going longer is better. Verf, are they on the wrong tyre? They're on the soft tyre. They're on the soft tyre. Surely that can't be right for the Sauber car. There's no way that a higher tier driver who raced yesterday has just put on a soft compound tyre. Jericho Willis will see this and think glory. That helps a lot. A two-stop is almost possible in every single racetrack, but it's more or less a 10-second difference in overall race time, and 10 seconds is actually a huge amount when it comes to overall race time. His tyres are already warmed up and he's ready to try and pass the Red Bull car. They won't be able to get through just yet, but look how much grip these tyres have. You could almost think that they're going to go for the move before we get to the start-finish straight. It wouldn't be wise to do it. But there it is. DRS, ERS, plenty of grip. Almost full battery to make the move. And there it is, Terence into the pit lane. Jericho Willis going to be out ahead. It's going to be a drag race into the first corner. Oh, and it's Jericho Willis who just has to miss out. And now the cold, hard tyres for the Racing Bull are going to be a problem. Bernsters has a brilliant, brilliant undercut with that very early pit stop. Of course, they've got an extra stop to go, and they've got to not lose any time in this race. Luckily for them, the battle that has just gone up ahead has lost them minimal time, if any at all, and now they've got DRS range off of Jericho Willis. This is as good as it's going to get here for them. It's going to be bonsai into the wall, unfortunately, as they spin once more on the exit of 4 and into 5 down the hill, and those tyres are not looking any better. Lap 14 hard tyres. It's going to be brutal. Verf breaks away on this soft tyre, as they need to be doing so sooner rather than later. It has DRS for a moment, but they might end up losing it in a very short while, as they've got a big loss in the front end. Are they going to hold the momentum up to the final corner? And they will just about get the job done. That's going to help them gain all the way down the start-finish straight and stay ahead of the likes of Terence and Edvir. Terence undercutting his fellow rival. It's Edvir, though, going for the move to the inside line, and they do not want to waste any time. They want to get ahead. They knew that they had the pace at the start of the race, just not later on. So if they want to use their performance right now, then they need to get into P1 to do what they can do to control this race. Bonzo retires in the pit lane. Very frustrating for them today, but it was good to see them for the first time, at least, in LSI. Wait 1 minute. Having struggles. Terence, MP5. But Edvir, they're going to be definitely asking a few questions. Where should they position their car? Where should they use the ERS, the battery? For now, they're good to go, and I don't think Terence really has the desire to make a move, because there's a long way to go. They've got 1 lap fresher tyres, and they appear to have the better tyre life later on. Oh, no. Bernst, unfortunately, on this medium tyre. That's a spin, and that is going to be all of their progress, their risky strategy down the drain. They've still got something left in this race, of course. For the current tier drivers, they are still competing for the podium. P1 breaking away nicely, flying in fact. Jericho Willis, 3.4 seconds, just waiting for the moment where Verf's tyres drop off. Verf's going to have to go back into the pit lane and onto another set of tyres. What they choose, we don't know. Oh, and that's another yellow. Unfortunately, Bernst has more issues, and that's going to be them taking a trip to the wall and getting a bit of end plate damage. Not ideal for their race. Very frustrating to see that one happen there. Our first driver from South America in a long time. Our first driver from Brazil since, I think, 2021. They've not had the best start to their time in LSI, but I'm excited to see what they can do in the future. They've had some good pace other than these issues. So I hope they don't get themselves down too much. 3.6 seconds. Now, Verf has got to try and make use of this. They've got to try and do what they can. They've pulled off a crazy strategy in the past. Just can they get the job done again against Jericho Willis as they did before? This time it seems a bit more confusing. But you never know, maybe that softer compound tyre towards the end that's going to be fairly fresh is going to be the best option for them. It's Jericho Willis who is the hunter. Edvir, though, leading for the EU drivers, going all the way to the white line and up to the grass, up the hill, back down, and once again to track limits. And Terence not letting anything go. Edvir looking for his first ever LSI F1.5 victory, his first ever LSI victory, and Terence looking for a fourth. Oh, and that's a time penalty there for way 1 minute, unfortunately. Three-time Grand Prix victor over multiple seasons and multiple games. 2022, 4 and 5. Terence looks to the outside line as Edvir is going to keep their car very, very straight, and the space was minimal. Terence still looked to that outside line, and they've put the pressure on, definitely. That's the calling card. Terence now 5 laps into this hard tyre. They're also in the dirty air, which in real life terms would mean more tyre wear. In the F1 game terms, in previous games at least, it has been known that if you're in dirty air, you actually save tyre wear. So not only has Terence got more performance in the tyre wear area, as we saw earlier on in the previous stint, they've now got that dirty air to help them out with that. Obviously it's going to be a struggle with the dirty air as an effect as well. But you can't have it all. But you can have DRS, and with a 6/10 advantage, surely Edvir's going to be safe. But no, they've turned the battery off. Terence is using, but Terence backs off as well at the last second. That would have been a clear move there for Terence, but they didn't opt for it in the end. Edvir's under pressure. Terence looks like they've got this one under control right now. This is for the victory. This is for the championship lead. That's another mistake there, unfortunately, for the Sauber driver of way 1 minute. A frustrating situation for them to be in. In the meantime, Jericho Willis has gained on Verf. Verf's going to have to make a decision sooner rather than later as to what they do with this tyre. But still continuing to compete in this race and getting those laps in. 3 more minutes. The same. It's Terence and Edvir. The battle that we watch. Will we see an overtake this time from the Red Bull? Terence wins this race, they lead the championship. Edvir wins this race. Terence is 1 point away from the championship leader, Frantic, and it's joint on points for Frantic and Edvir. It's a big old sway. It's an 8-point difference sway in the championship between these two. It's going to be Terence making a move a lot easier this time as they go back to the racing line into P1 at turn 1. Oh no! Oh, Edvir's made a mistake. They got distracted as they got the dirty air for the first time in a long time. And they're into the gravel on the exit, and not only has Terence got the high ground with the battery advantage as well, they've now got the gap advantage. Edvir struggling with these tyres relative to the Red Bull. And after all those races where they had issues here and there with the performance, well, Spain, my friend, is your circuit. If you want to save the tyres, do it here. It will help you. Terence, an absolute masterclass in setup if you want to go long, and they're going long for a long, long time. Jericho Willis 8.4 seconds in front. Verf making that pit stop onto a fresh set of medium tyres. They've got about just under 10 laps in this race to get this job done. I say that, just over 10 laps in this race to get this job done. Edvir is going to be frustrated with their situation using the battery down the straight. 5.4 seconds relative to Terence. Still taking a big chunk out of Frantic's championship lead. They'll be 4 points behind the championship leader of Frantic. But if it is to be Terence in the championship lead, then it will be 8 points behind. Sway 1 minute retiring in the pit lane, unfortunately. After having more issues in this race, they do not wish to continue. It's our third retirement of the race. Bounced at the back of the pack, still getting those laps in as they should be. Purple middle sector now as Verf shows off the pace with the fresh tyre. 1.1 seconds away. They're not quite there with Edvir. They're going to miss out on DRS, I think. They've given it their all to try and get there. Where's that rear wing going to open? Incredible. Absolutely incredible. With a purple lap. And the move into the first corner is what they look for. A slight defensive throw to the inside for Edvir, but nothing too serious, as there was no way they were going to hold off a higher tier Grand Prix winner on fresh tyres. Just trying to take it into this race now as long as they can. Locking up with those fronts. Terence not having the same story. And they've got battery to use. But of course we do know that anything can happen in league racing. And if you ride that curb a little bit too hard in the wrong way, all of a sudden your race could be done. They're 3.6 seconds away, but looking at the gap to the leader, it's a 12.6 second gap to gain in under 10 laps. Is that even possible? Well, let's see. Can Verf make the impossible happen? Can they make it possible? Or is it going to be the situation given after an unfortunate tyre selection choice in the pit lane? It's the way it goes in league racing sometimes. The settings can be wrong, sometimes you get it wrong, sometimes the game gets it wrong. And it's just the way virtual racing goes. It's the strategy call. It's when a pit stop crew in real life makes a mistake. This is what we get instead. It's not unlucky. Well, it is unlucky. But you're never going to get certain things in real life. But you're going to get replacements. You're going to get connection failures over engine failures. And these kind of things, that's what you have to look out for and try and minimise the risk of. Otherwise it can change your race, it can change your championship. Sometimes you have to accept them, sometimes you can fix them if you work hard on them. And right now Verve's not giving up. Still pushing their car to the limit on lap 26, even after this difficult strategy. They haven't retired the car in the pit lane. They just keep going. And now they're catching up to Terence to get to that P2 spot. We'll see if that medium tyre is still going to be quick enough to the end of the Grand Prix to actually have a go at Jericho Willis. We saw a few punctures back in Silverstone. We didn't see any punctures yesterday, despite a lot of drivers complaining about the tyre wear towards the end of the Grand Prix. That was especially from Samaxon in the end. I think they messed up their tyre pressures and wings, which will have both played a factor. Playing a factor in overtaking as ERS and DRS, and there it is. The Red Bull is passed by the higher tier driver. Terence doesn't need to worry too much about that. They tuck into the slipstream to gain everything they can. And Verve is now to P2. Currently, it's Terence in P1 for the EU drivers, it's Edver in P2, and it's Bernison in P3. For the overall, Jericho Willis and Verve are currently leading the way, as Verve tries to salvage what they can from a difficult strategy after hitting onto the soft tyre for their second choice, their second stop. Sorry, their first stop on the second tyre. Their third tyre and their second stop is a medium tyre, which they would have probably not preferred to be on because they wanted to be on the hard tyre and follow Jericho. But this is the way it is. 8.5 seconds is the gap. How is that going to change? As they can not see Jericho Willis up in front in the distance, way too far to even be considered in this one. Just moving left and right to try and sway the car, to get the balance, to get the rotation, to give themselves an easier time in gaining that performance, gaining that lap time. And then steering the car on the throttle on the exit all over up to the curb. Just trying to use the danciness to get that rear end out and then power through the rest of the corner. ERS and DRS being blasted, 7.8 seconds, making good progress. Using all the way up to the AstroTurf, cutting the inside on the sausage curb. I thought it wasn't the best way to do it, but now we've seen a few too many people doing it where I think it might actually be more beneficial. Once again, powering to the outside of the circuit. Once you see that outside line, you just point your car and you put the throttle on. And there it is. That's a lap. We'll stay into turn one, as they could have maybe just briefly saw Jericho Willis. First corner, getting as close as they can to the sausage curves without touching them. And then pulling it to the right-hand side up through turn 3 and slowly bleeding away to keep up that top speed. Avoid scrubbing, which is a slight factor in the F1.25 game, not as much as it is in real life. It's still a slight factor. 6.8 seconds. And this green car is on an absolute charge. And they would have just briefly saw Jericho Willis in the distance for the first time in a while. Jericho Willis going up the hill and then once again back down it Verf closely chasing. I say closely, 6.2 seconds is a bit of a gap. With only a few laps to go, these guys have given it a good old effort. 6.1 seconds now. Verf pushing to the limit to do whatever they can, but even if it seems impossible, they're not stopping. We've got Terence leading the way for the EU drivers, and looking at their tyre situation with the gap that they've now had, that they've gained. He's driven a phenomenal race so far. Edvit having problems with their tyres before they stay in this race. And they're going to be looking to score those good points to catch up nicely to Frantic after having that big incident in Australia and missing the race in Monza due to the time change. They now turn up to Spain and the championship is once again wide open. Bernstein P5 on debut, doing what they can to gain the experience that they need for the future races that they'll compete in. I'm excited for this one. And racing with a lot of internet problems relative to their location in the world compared to the server location. But it doesn't look too bad. And it hasn't affected them at all this race. Jericho Willis once again, 4.6 seconds ahead. It's a mighty effort for Verf to catch up. Is there a little bit of Jericho Willis just damage limitation driving? Are they slowing down because they know that they've got 4 seconds to still be in front? We've got to remember that although that tyre is now 10 lap old tyre, medium tyres, Jericho Willis is still on 17 lap old hard tyres, so that difference is going to even out a little bit. And that's why we can still see this massive gain. It's almost possible feeling right now here for Verf. Jericho Willis is slowing down. Oh no! Oh, and what we saw in qualifying has happened, and Verf has given it all, and now it's over. I do not believe it. 5 seconds will be the gap. And Jericho Willis. Those tyres look pretty cooked in itself. But I don't think it matters. They've got 1 lap and 4.5 seconds to split. This will just be absolutely fine. Brent's hoping that they don't get lapped. He's looking to go for a fastest lap at the end of this race. They might end up getting lapped if they're not careful, because Jericho Willis is going to be passing them on the exit. It's Verf, who once again finds a bit of a rhythm. Is trying to catch back up, but I don't think it's going to be possible. There's Terence in P3 starting the final lap of the Grand Prix. Edvit in P4. Bernst is now a lapped car on a fresh set of medium tyres, and they're going to hope that Jericho Willis... sorry, no, not hope that Jericho Willis. They're going to hope that Verf allows them to pass, but with Jericho Willis being all the way up ahead in P1, there's going to be no chance of them getting the fastest lap in, unfortunately. That is going to be it done. But it was a good effort for sure. Jericho Willis, 18 lap old, hard tyres, Verf's hunted them down the entire race. It's been absolutely brilliant to watch. These guys pushing each other to the limit, as we've seen so many times before. Hard versus medium. 2-stop versus 1-stop. What could have been if that little spin didn't happen? What could have been if the pit stops didn't go the way they did? It's Jericho Willis who wins the Spanish Grand Prix for the EU drivers, but Terence, absolutely perfection with the strategy, with the setup. I don't know what to say. How about it? The Spanish Grand Prix is theirs. Terence wins the F1.5 EU Championship race in Spain. Perfect stuff for the driver from Hong Kong. They take their 4th Grand Prix victory of their career in LSI F1.5. It's Ed Viv to P2, and they make massive progress in this championship. Terence is your new championship leader, and Edvir is now in the fight by just a few points. Frantic is frantically watching, and they don't know what to do. It's Jericho Willis who takes the win. It's Verf in P2, and it's Terence in P3. Edvir Bernst, it's way 1 minute DNFing earlier on. Bonsai as well, and Sulkin in the earlier laps. The race director is on your screen, and then we go to the session results, and we'll be back in a bit for the post-race interviews. We'll see you in a few minutes. Hello everyone, welcome to the post-race interviews of the Spanish Grand Prix. That was a pretty interesting one to watch with the strategies all going on there. We go through first with the overall race winner, Jericho Willis. Jericho, that was a bit of a long one for sure, but two different strategies. It definitely had us all curious.
Yeah, a very interesting one from Verth. My plan was to just wait for him to pit and then pit a lap after. And even if he managed to get the undercut and even break DRS, that was okay because I figured with an extra lap of tires at the end, it would come back in. So, but very surprised when I actually didn't notice that he went onto the soft um, until I had already pitted. So had I seen him on the soft, I probably would have stayed out another couple of laps because the medium was still pretty quick. And I think, for race time, probably one or two more laps would have been good out of the medium. But anyway, it was still fine. He didn't pull away much on the soft. He pulled out a gap to like 4 seconds, and then that was as far as he could get before the tires went off because that soft tire is just not very good for any more than maybe like 8 laps, maybe 10 at the most, and then you're definitely slower. So then from there, it was just being consistent. The hard tire is not a good race tire, but it's still better than the two stop. So you just kind of pick when you want to use it, and it seemed like the second stint was the best time to use that tire. And then it was just stay consistent, don't make any significant mistakes, and just keep the pace going, and then it should be okay. By the time he gets close, his tires should be going off, and that worked. I think he had to push quite hard. He was taking some pretty good chunks for a while, but then I think as he got later in the stint, he was just trying to push too hard. Well, he had to try to do everything to get back to it. And so he had to push that hard. But, when you push that hard, tires overheat, little mistakes, when you're right on the limit. So, but a really good effort from him, and kind of an interesting strategy. But a bit lonely and hard to keep your concentration and to really continuously push yourself. So that was kind of the mental game behind it, and not to worry about that gap coming down because it's going to happen in a two stop, and you just can't sweat it. You just got to continue on with your race. Know that your one stop is faster overall, and unless his pace is so much better, it's going to be very hard for him to get back. So it worked out for us, and it was kind of fun to kind of get in a groove and to pump in some nice fast laps, and just feel like the car was doing what I wanted it to do today. So that was fun.
Yeah, perfect. It was a long one for sure, but I will say thank you very much for racing. It's a pleasure to watch you drive, and it's been great to watch through the season. I understand we've not got too many races which you can compete in, so it's good to see you whenever we can. So thank you very much, Jericho. Congratulations today on another victory, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And we move on to Terence. Terence, that's your fourth career victory in LSI. That was a different one. Not too many people to compete with, unfortunately, once again. After Monza, we had quite a few people, and now it's gone back down. But I will say, for tyres, for strategy, that was absolutely awesome. Those tyres, just seemingly from you with that strategy, just really, really good. How did you do it?
I don't know, honestly. I just tuned my setup before before the race. So because I have to sleep, I only sleep an hour, I think. Yeah, it's quite tired as well. I can't barely open my eyes today, but yeah, I still managed to play the marathon. Um, I think yeah, compared with Ethia, it's quite. I think it's quite frustrating for him because he got overheat rear tires.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Maybe because I'm always using 55 differential, quite low differential compared
Very.
with the normal. Yeah, very very low. So yeah, I can put a much better time compared with him on when the tire get old. I think that is what I normally be actually in every race, but it just become more severe when it comes to Spain because around Barcelona you have to really take care of your tires,
Hmm.
and also you have to manage anything when you're under dirty air.
Yep.
And luckily I didn't do any mistakes today. Maybe because there's less car, but I didn't know the strategy as well before when I really get into the first stint of mediums. When I look at the first lap, there's something like 4 to 5% per lap, and I think, oh my god, maybe I need to do a two stop. But when it goes on, and the tire wear goes down eventually, so yeah, pretty good one stop strategy today.
Yeah.
And I don't expect that I could actually overcut the McLaren.
Well, you drove an incredible race, and that's your second victory of the season. Regardless of how it happens, it's always good to win. You are now the championship leader by 3 points going into the next race, and into round 8 of 12. How about that? Thank you very much, Terence. Really well deserved today, and I'll let you go and get some sleep. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next time.
See.
And thank you very much, everybody, for watching. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you in the next one for the... I've forgotten the race already. I checked it yesterday. It's Brazil for a sprint event. That's going to be absolutely awesome. I cannot wait. Thank you very much once more. We'll see you next time. Good night.